Call to order the 7 o'clock regular Board of Education meeting on September 24th, 24 to order. Moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance with Mr. Janitis.
There are a lot of things that we could pause to reflect upon tonight. We have divisions within our town. We have issues within our state. We have serious disagreements on the national level with our borders being overrun and all the problems associated with the presidential election. And internationally, what has happened in the Ukraine, in the Middle East, and the South China Sea. But tonight, I'm going to go back to the 1960s and the early 1970s, my formative years. This past weekend, my wife and I spent a lot of time down in Manchester at the Wall That Heals exhibit. It is the recreation of the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C. It is approximately 3/4 the size of the original wall. It has 58,000 plus names of men and women who lost their lives in Vietnam. I did my basic training in AIT at a place that was known then as the hellhole of the Army, Fort Polk, Louisiana. Just about everyone who trained there ended up in Vietnam. I trained with many of the boys who served in Nam, and they never came home. I ask you tonight to remember these 58,000 plus men and women who gave their lives for this nation. And when you say the pledges of allegiance tonight, think of what the words really mean. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fire evacuation announcement. So you can go out the back of the chambers into the parking lot, or you can go out the side door here, take a left down the stairway and out to the bottom parking lot. Also, the bathrooms here are still under construction. So you will have to go, I highly recommend you go down the elevator and come back up the elevator because you may not be able to get back in. So that's that. All right, roll call please, Kathy.
Mr. Janitis?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mrs. Pickett?
Here.
Dr. Callen?
Here.
Mr. Clover?
Here.
Mrs. Acree?
Here.
Mrs. Cushman?
Here.
Chairwoman Riley?
Present, here. Okay. Board guests, Teacher of the Year, Ms. Wines.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Riley. Very, very excited that we have our Teacher of the Year. I know this is kind of an annual tradition we do. I think it's just a great way to start the school year that Sherry Winans is here. I know, Ms. Riley, you were able to see the beginning of the school activities we had, and Sherry spoke, and I know it was a real inspiration to all of us, so I'm so happy we get to welcome Sherry here as our Teacher of the Year. So welcome, Sherry.
Stop, please. Oh, God. It's very sweet of you all to, they were standing for those at home that couldn't see it. That was very, very sweet. All right, red light's on, so I'm okay. So thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My speech, as Mr. Longy mentioned it, it's going to sound a little redundant for those that were at convocation, but I think it's an important message, at least I hope it is for everyone. So I'd like to start off first by giving a warm thank you to everyone who helped me to get where I'm sitting right now. So thank you to my family and my friends and my colleagues who were my friends and then turned into family. And thank you to the Teacher of the Year Committee for selecting me with this amazing honor. Very special thank you to my friend Karen McManus, who is a fellow teacher, but my friend, and she's the one who nominated me for this award. And my 5th grade team, Sherry Silkowski, Allison Smith, Julie Nuzzo, Melanie O'Connor, Jen Perlitz, Andrew Dupere, and again, Karen McManus, for helping me in such a special way for the presentation that I put on for the committee. They did a few videos. It was cute. I just wanted to start with a little history about how I literally got to where I am right now, because some people out there might not know. I have lived and worked in Enfield my entire life. I started out at Henry Barnard in 1991, and I rotated among 3 third-grade classrooms that had 29 kids in each as a teacher assistant to help alleviate the work that comes along with large class sizes. Ironic, because that's how many kids I have this year in my classroom. The following year, I got my own 3rd grade at Henry Barnard, and then I was laid off at the end of that year. The following year, jobs were hard to find, so I had 4 long-term sub positions here in Enfield. I started at Eli Whitney in 2nd grade and moved to being a reading teacher at Whitney. Then I went over to Memorial to teach 5th grade, and then I stayed at Memorial to finish up the year in 3rd grade. After that crazy year, I got called back to teach at Alcorn, where I taught 4th grade for 17 years. And then the reorg put me at Crandall in 5th grade, and I've been there ever since. So that was a little history about my literal path to me sitting here. But I wanted to share with you how I really got here, because I'm hoping for people listening to grab onto something that helps make your journey in life as special as mine has been. Not that it hasn't gone without its challenges, personally and professionally. A lot of people give speeches with famous people quotes, but I'm going to speak about 3 things that I learned from some very special people in my life. My 3 people who I'm going to refer to who helped me get to this point aren't here anymore. And this is not to make anybody sad. I don't want you to be sad. I want you to celebrate them with me. And as to how they got me to this part of my journey now, and learn how I definitely wouldn't be who I am or where I am without them. So first, there's my dad, Carmen Nucio. He was just the best man, and he had lots of advice for his children, of course, but one of his biggest things was that he wanted to instill in us, if you're going to do a job, do it right. And you don't even want to know how many times my brother and sister and I were sent back out to his very large garden of mostly tomatoes, and we had to go and make sure we found every teeny tiny weed that existed. It was quite something, and he was really, really picky, and that's what I thought way back then. But it made an impact because it stuck in my head, because that was his philosophy. And I made sure to give my best efforts with that in the back of my head to every job that I've ever had, especially in my teaching. Because imagine if we don't give our best. Who loses? For we teachers, our students would lose. For our administration, staff and students would lose. For our town leaders, our community would lose. I know I got into this field because I wanted to help kids be the best possible versions of themselves. I know it warms my heart to witness a student overcome obstacles and reach their goals. And we as teachers, administration, and town leaders have the privilege of being part of that journey. So we need to do it right. Next is my husband, Keith. Almost 10 years ago, we lost him to cancer. But again, I'm here to celebrate him and pass on a part of his belief system that has helped me to continue life in a positive manner. In my classroom, I have a banner. Well, there's actually 3 of them, and it says, "Life is good." And Keith and I always enjoyed all that life is good gear before he got diagnosed with cancer. But when he did get diagnosed, it became our mantra. He knew how to live life to its fullest, even through his toughest days of his terrible disease. He would put a smile on his face, get out into the world, and live his mantra. I know it helped me to learn to work to live and not live to work. And despite the many challenges that we face, especially this year, we just have to remember our why. I saw this great analogy online over the summer, and so I want you to imagine that you're holding a cup of coffee. When someone comes along and bumps into your arm and making you spill your coffee everywhere. So, why did you spill the coffee? Because someone bumped into you. Well, that's the wrong answer. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside the cup is what will spill out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which has clearly happened to us this year, whatever is inside will come out. So we must ask ourselves, what's in my cup when life gets tough? Anger, bitterness, victim mentality, or joy and gratitude and peace? Life is the cup. You choose how to fill it. So let's go forward in this year that started off messy and fill our cups with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, words of affirmation, resilience, positivity, and kindness for others. I want you to live life like my husband Keith did. Dance in the rain, have dessert, hug your loved ones, and know that life is good. And then finally, there's my friend Amy Romano. She was one of the most wonderful people to ever walk this planet. She was a warm, talented, and inspirational teacher in Enfield and a friend to all. Besides being one of my best friends, I was blessed to be her teaching partner at Alcorn. Our beloved principal, Marguerite Myers-Killeen, reopened Alcorn with us and knew the importance of building a positive culture in a school. So every year, she would buy us a pin with an inspirational message. Sadly, for retirement reasons, Marguerite had to go back to Massachusetts, and when she left, Amy was also our head teacher, took it upon herself to keep up the inspirational pins, and the last pin that she gave us before she passed away was the Little Red Wagon pin. I left you a bookmark in your spots. Thank you to Sherry Silkowski and Ashley Hurley and my ribbon team for putting them together. They made 600 of them for the convocation, so just want everybody to know that. And in your spot, the bookmark actually has the actual poem that goes along with the pin that Amy gave us. It's written by Margaret Catter, and it's called The Little Red Wagon. Some days we skip along pulling our wagons with great confidence, so full of energy that the load seems light. Someday the load seems heavy and we need someone to help us pull our wagons over the bumps in the road. Some days we're just tired. We sit in our wagons and we let someone else pull us along for a while. And some days it's kind of nice to share our little red wagons with a friend. As you think about yesterday and make plans for tomorrow, keep in mind that there will be times when you can help pull someone's little red wagon for a while. After all, helping to pull each other's little red wagon is what makes it possible to face the challenges the day brings. As you can hear in this poem, working together to support each other is very important. I certainly know this is how I made it through 33 years of teaching. Sometimes I pulled the wagon, sometimes I needed help to pull the wagon, and sometimes I just needed to hop in that wagon and be pulled, which I know is not always easy for some of us to ask for help. You see, I believe in the concept of team. I believe that we're always better together. And together we can try to survive these cuts and rise above for the betterment of our kids. Together we can move students forward and close the learning gaps, even when it seems impossible with our large class sizes. Together we can encourage each other to get through a tough day. Together we can reach any goal that we set for ourselves. Together, we are better. So remember this year and every year, if you're going to do a job, do it right. Use that little red wagon and remember to fill your cup with positivity because life is good. Thank you.
Well, you left so quickly. I was going to ask if anybody wanted to, ask any questions or give the kudos that you rightfully deserve.
Nobody said there'd be questions. Okay.
All right.
Any questions?
Anybody want to go?
33 years
This is 34.
and 4 more years, you're not going to know what to do.
I'll probably still be in Crandall, room 24. Yeah. I still love it. I still love what I do. So we'll see. We'll see when those 4 years come around. What'd you say?
I said you're excellent at it.
Oh, you're sweet, Maureen. Thank you very much.
Ms. Pickett?
All right. We just need tissues as a permanent board feature. I just want to thank you for your dedication to Enfield Public Schools. It's obvious that you've remained committed to us, even over the bumpy road, and through 4 long-term sub positions. I mean, that alone, I think, would get somebody to go someplace else. I also just want to acknowledge the intergenerational impact that your family has had on EPS, and I thank you all for the work that you've done, and anxious to see what future generations hopefully come as well.
Thank you.
And
She's hinting at my mom, who's a retired teacher, sitting behind us.
And thank you for sharing your special family and friends with us in your speech. Really think that those are great life lessons that we can all learn from. So thank you for your dedication. Well honored, well deserved. And
Thank
keep
you.
it up.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Acree?
Congratulations, Cherie.
Thank you, Jean.
I love the fact that Enfield honors their educators, such as yourself, great teachers who demonstrate the dedication and loyalty to the profession like you do. Thank you for your hard work, your creativity, your support, and your care for all the students that you work with.
Thank you.
And I know, I can tell by listening to you that you give them your best
I do.
as you
I
shape
try.
their little young minds for the future. So thanks again for everything.
Thank you, Mrs. Cree.
Ms. Blank?
I just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for your 34 years of students and their parents and their families. And I want to let you know that I heard you. And on behalf of myself, I just wanted to thank Carmen, Keith, Amy, and you.
Thank you.
So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
So I picked up on a few things you were saying, and one of the things you said that is you wanted to help kids. But I think what's important to say tonight is that you wanted to help Enfield kids. You've stayed here. Your dedication is to the students and families here in Enfield. You've suffered a lot of loss, and you've taken that loss and you've turned it into a lot of love. And I am very proud of you for doing that.
Amanda, where are those tissues? Stop it.
And I know that you smile and you give everybody a warm hug, but you're doing a great job because not a lot of people could do what you do. And Jack was yours and Keith's greatest accomplishment.
Thank you. He's my pride and joy.
So I just want you to know that through your pain, you have shown us all how to love more, and to be our absolute best, whether it's in the classroom or out. So congratulations. I can't think of anyone who deserved this more. I can't wait to see what the next few years mean for you at teaching.
Well, according to Mr. Genizes, it's retirement. Oh, no, thank you, sir.
But, there's sayings that go, when you lose somebody, that can definitely define you in one of two ways. And thank you for all your love.
Thanks, team.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Ms. Cushman.
Ms. Winans, you're certainly appreciated
Thank
for
you,
the
Mrs.
commitment that you've demonstrated to our students over the years, decades worth of students. But one of the things when you were just in your speech and you were talking about celebrating the lives that have influenced us, and I think about what amazing opportunities you've put, being in a school setting, you've given yourself many lives to celebrate. And I was able to be there for the staff convocation and just to watch the faces of your staff and peers as you were giving your speech. It was so timely, everything that the district has gone through and all the reorganization and people in new positions and new places and the little red wagon, that encouragement to work together and to just find strength in each other and to celebrate lives together. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
your
It's
work.
very kind. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now on a more serious note. I love the way you talk and what you said and the passion, because that's what teaching is, and you'll never, ever lose that
Nope.
and keep it.
Nope. That's time to get out then.
No, there's other reasons.
Well, okay.
Anyone else? I would just like to say congratulations. Definitely could not have gone to a more wonderful individual. I am super lucky that I have gotten to see you at Crandall so many times and have heard so many awesome things. And, hearing your story brings a whole new, level of awe and admiration to what you do, because you never know what people are going through until you actually talk to them.
You don't, right?
And the amount of kindness that you show all the time is wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Okay.
All right.
Can I walk? Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Superintendent's report. Mr. Long.
Thank you very much. Just a few things. Just a reminder, we have an early release tomorrow for staff professional development. The reminder has gone out on Parent Square, so this is a good use of our Parent Square to get started with that. But a phone call will not go out like you're used to. Parent Square sends out a text and an email. So just to remind all the families that tomorrow is an early release for staff PD. Also, I wanted to give the board a quick update on our student board representatives. I know that was brought up 2 weeks ago. Mr. Macchio and I will be meeting with the 4 students on Tuesday, October 1st. During this time, we will be conducting a training for the students. Therefore, we will have our student representatives for the next meeting, the October 8th meeting. So very excited for that. Also, as this will be my last meeting as interim superintendent, I wanted to say thank you to the board for your incredible patience with me since the end of May. I can honestly say that we were able to navigate the many challenges that we faced because of the hard work and support of this board. When you think back, it's incredible how many nights and meetings this group did from June to really tonight. It's nothing like I've ever seen before, and I just really want to thank you. I want to publicly thank this board and the incredible staff within the Enfield Public Schools for all the support the past few months, and look forward to returning to my role as Deputy Superintendent to assist staff, students, and families. Finally, I want to remind all staff, students, and parents that our new superintendent of schools, Mr. Stephen Macchio, will be officially starting this Monday, the 30th. I want the community to know just how excited I am for this, and I am confident that the district will start to rebuild from the massive budget cuts that occurred. I hope the entire community welcomes Steve into his new role on Monday as we start to move the district forward. And that's all I have for interim superintendent's report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kathy, do we have any audiences? Oh, okay. All right, Ms. Griffin. All right.
Yeah, I have to sit here after her. Thanks. Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road mom. She's got a lot of wisdom, incredible amount of wisdom. And I'm going to bring something up that I brought up before because I think it's really important. The whole reorganization was top down necessarily because you had to cover the entire district. And there was only one way to do that, the global look, eagle look. Well, it's about a month into the school year. It's time to do a bottom-up assessment of how things are going, what's working, what's not working, and not as in it can't work, but we need to tweak it. As a function of their roles, admin, central office, no negativity towards you, but they haven't been in the classroom in a long time. And even before COVID, the life in the classroom had been changing drastically. And COVID just accelerated that. So now we need to hear from those who are currently actively in the classrooms. We have to invite them to be perfectly blunt. And that willingness to do that has to stem from central office and admin being open to it, being willing to hear it, being willing to take criticism if there is some, because the staff has wisdom. You just heard just one member of the staff. And especially because it's been so shaken up from people from different schools in different places. There's a whole lot of different perspectives now of, that isn't working quite right. We tried this when we faced that problem. There's a lot of synthesis that can go on. and it should be welcomed, and it should be actively sought after. And everyone's talking about the respect for Cherie. In my opinion, one of the other ways you show respect for your staff is to not only elicit their opinion, but take it to heart and act upon it whenever possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay. Is anybody else out there in? Okay. All right, so moving on to board members' comments. Who would like to go first? Anyone? No. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ryder.
So just another reminder to make sure that you sign up for that new app, Parent Square. As Mr. Longy alluded to earlier, there are no robocalls going out tonight regarding tomorrow's early release day, but there is an early release day tomorrow. I'm also working with Dr. Wiley. We've been talking daily. Until everybody gets Parent Square and gets on it, I don't want you to miss any of the communication, so she's sending me links that we can still share on enfieldpto.com/HMS/Whitney, et cetera. The calendars on that website are all up to date as far as the most recent principal emails that I do have, but I don't want you to miss any information that's going out, so please check your kids' backpacks, check your own download Parent Square, but also keep an eye on Power School, because there's also daily announcements for all the schools in there. That's just a note for all parents to remind you that if you're in middle school or in the high school, that you can get those daily announcements. And I also wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Longy, as he mentioned earlier, knowing that this is his last meeting as our interim superintendent, although he still has another week to go in that role. This will be his last meeting, and I just want to thank him for everything this summer, and also for everything that he's done with us over the last 8 school years in this current role, and everything obviously before that. But thank you again, Mr. Longy, for everything. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Anybody else like to go? No? Mr. Cover?
Jump into it. All right, good evening. Just want to take a moment, since this is my first meeting back, being I was out of town for a while. I want to welcome the EPS staff, students, and community back to school. And we understand that the district looks different than it did last year. Nonetheless, we hope students and staff are settling in well for the school year. I wanted to circle back and just do a quick thank you to Chief Fox, Captain Nolan, and the school security officers that conducted the meet and greet and introduced themselves to the community before the doors opened on the first day of school. As Mr. Ryder stated, I also wanted to recognize and thank Interim Superintendent Longy for his work during the last almost 6 months. Look forward to getting Mr. Macchio settled in the upcoming weeks. I also want to send a congratulations to our new HR manager, Dr. Barrios. Let's see. I did have just one question through the chair to the interim super. I know we mentioned tomorrow's a half day for professional development. I know previously I had asked about the board getting copies of either district initiatives or building schedules or department PD or what that looks like. So would it be possible for the board to get that for just tomorrow and then for the year as well? Doesn't have to be answered now, but if we could just make a note on that.
We can put something together for you.
All right, thank you. Some other comments I have just regarding the transparency initiative I've been working on. So just to update the public and everybody, I did have a meeting with the board's leadership over the summer. This included the interim and incoming superintendents to kind of outline some of the vision and the desired end state. Some of the goals I want to talk about is just consistent and thorough reporting, data, metrics, and information that can be used in the decision-making process of the board. Some of the goals of this initiative is to create a better shared understanding of events, needs, and resources between appointed administrators and elected officials. The goal is to encourage two-way dialogue between these two entities and also provide additional opportunities and information needed for oversight and quality control. I've received mostly positive feedback to date, and some of the next steps will be sponsoring a handful of policy revisions, as well as working through some budget ideas and proposals for the FY26 budget. And that is all I have for this time.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Cover. Go ahead, Mr. Janitis.
I'd like to thank you, Andy, for what you did getting through these troubled waters that we're in. I mean, this was reminiscent of Kosciuszko closing and Fermi shutting down, and a lot of movement, a lot of changes in programs and class sizes, and you name it, it's happened. But I know, and I think you know, we're going to get through this. So thank you for getting us through these times. And I think you're getting out at the right time, because I see a little gray on the side of that head.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Pickett?
Thanks. First, I wanted to thank you, Peter, for your opening. My dad is a Vietnam veteran, and remembering and honoring Vietnam vets is and particularly appreciated. So thank you for that. I'm sad that I missed the visiting memorial. Thank you, Andy. It was a lot this summer. You were responsive. You were intentional. I appreciate your leadership through that time. Thank you for staying on board with us, and hope for continued success. Maureen, I want to thank you for your comments. I'm looking forward to some new leadership. I see this as an opportunity for us to assess our efforts, to develop a strategic plan to move forward. And I, like you, believe that staff and students and families need to be centralized to that plan. We need to hear their voice, we need to hear their experiences, and we need to use their ideas and wisdom and creative solutions to move forward. I'll touch a little bit more on that in a moment. A couple things with the half day coming up for tomorrow. I know soon we will be starting to look at school calendars, as weird as that is, but I know like the calendar planning is probably already happening at central office. So I'm going to plug it here now. I'm wondering if there are ways that we can look at how half days are scheduled. When we think of chronic absence and our attendance efforts, really looking at how those play out, and maybe leveraging creating full days instead of half days off to lessen the scheduling impact. Another piece, and I was chatting with parents about this, is the potential of scheduling a mid-year conference in December versus November. November is a crazy month already, just with holidays. And since we only do one in-person parent-teacher conference, officially scheduled, I wonder if a mid-year conference assessing kind of where students are and what needs to be done at the end of the year, for the end of the year, might be more beneficial. So just some considerations as we're planning a calendar. I'm excited to hear student reps are going to be joining us. I know we've had amazing student reps in the past. Also had some outreach about students that heard our comments about being engaged. So I'm excited to have their perspective up here. Really hopeful that they continue to engage in discussion and dialogue and feel empowered to do that. I know we're going to get an official curriculum update later, but I just want to chat about a couple things that came up in curriculum during my comments. One is around course changes at the high school. We had an extensive conversation around the course adjustments that happened. My large concern that I think it's important for us, Phil, you just mentioned this transparency initiative and data and how we use this to drive our decision making. I am incredibly concerned about the impact of our partnership with Isnuntuck being dismantled, and the impact that has on our enrollment and potentially losing students to magnet and tech school options. So I think we need to be looking carefully about our courses, enrollment, and how we can rebuild programs that we're definitely attracting students and keeping them in our schools. We also had a discussion that kind of links to that comment that Maureen made around how are we supporting our staff. So we did have some discussion around, in particular, supporting our DSAP staff and our new special ed staff. So I'm excited to continue having those conversations and hear about our supports to staff. And with that in mind, I think a concern and something I'm hoping is a focus of ours is really how are we building a connected school community? The reality is that our staff lists are different in our buildings. Personally, I will share, and I'll try hard not to get emotional, but there was open house night at Enfield Street School. My son is a fourth grader at Parkman now, and he was super excited to go back to Enfield Street School to go see all of his teachers that he doesn't get to see anymore. And we left the school, and he had his head down, my camera's up, and he's like, "None of my teachers are there, Mom." And unfortunately, that's true. Only his first grade teacher remains, and his gym teacher remains in that building. All of his other grade level teachers are not there, and the specialists have also changed. So I really want us to be thinking about, and this is really to our admin and to our school staff, thinking about how are we building community? How are we supporting the new staff that have entered our buildings? How are we supporting our students? I want to say that students do notice. They're missing people. And I think in order to heal, that pain must be acknowledged. And I think there's ways that we can really do better at how we're ensuring that students understand some of the changes and feel like they're still part of a connected community. Not just students, but staff as well. I know our staff have really had some shakeups as well. Another item that I want to touch upon that I think I've heard that we're going to be getting some different data reports. Phil, I appreciate some of your efforts around that transparency initiative. I am concerned about the data that does come our way. I do just want to point out publicly, obviously I've made concerns about my concerns around our safety and behavioral response systems. Thus far this school year, we have been notified of 6 911 transports. This time last year, there was 1 911 transport, and it was a medical transport. So out of this school year's 6 transports, 4 of those were protective custody. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but there's obviously a difference between medical and protective custody transports. 3 of those 6 protective custodies came from JFK. So I am concerned about what are we doing and how are we adjusting, knowing that this is already a concerning trend. And then the last piece I want to just put in the bug of community is, again, we've not only faced cuts, but it seems to continue on the town side. The town did have discussion around our athletic fields at Powder Hollow. They have made a determination to remove the dugouts with no plan to rebuild them. It was suggested that students and families should fundraise to rebuild those dugouts. To me, this is incredibly frustrating. That's our high school baseball team. And again, shows another lack of commitment in investing in our youth. I also have heard that they will be reevaluating the rental agreements for our town properties. I'm hoping people are paying attention. I'm hoping that whatever changes come to this policy does not impact our PTOs, our school programs, or our community partners that support our youth.
Dr. Callahan?
Yeah, I think I'm going to build a little bit on what Amanda just said. But first, I wanted to congratulate Andy on your incredible job as the interim superintendent. I think we all appreciated exactly what you had to contend with, and you met the responsibility beautifully, so thank you. There was an article yesterday in the Journal Inquirer about school threats of violence. I think the number they cited was since the beginning of the school year, something like 36 schools in Connecticut had to contend with threats of school violence. And this has taken an incredible psychological toll on students and teachers alike. And I'm not going to talk for very long about this because there's so much to talk about and I could go on forever. But I think what really struck me is that schools have to take a proactive role in dealing with this problem. We can't just ignore it. We have to make it clear that if students are in crisis as a result of this, they have to speak with somebody. We also have to encourage students that if they know of a student who may be in crisis, they have to report it to the appropriate personnel. Because sweeping it under the rug isn't going to do any good, and the results of ignoring the problem may be catastrophic. So I'm not really sure exactly how we're going to deal with this. I think our resources, our mental health resources in the school are already strained to the point of breaking. But I think it's really imperative that we try to strengthen the lines of communications with not only students but teachers as well about the stress that they may be undergoing as a result of this threat. We had the student president or the student mayor a couple of years ago, and I think her theme was talk to somebody, and I think we have to return to that idea. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Callahan. Ms. Acree?
Yes, I just would like to thank Mr. Longy for what you did in the past few months, your dedication and your hard work and your support for everything over the summer was greatly appreciated. So thanks again.
Anybody else like to go? No? Ms. Cushman, no? Mrs. Blank, would you like to go? Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, is my mic on? Okay. There is a pasta dinner Sunday for the Enfield High girls soccer team. Tickets are $5, and it's at the Knights of Columbus between 5:30 and 8:30. If somebody does not want to cook dinner and wants to go see the Enfield High girls soccer team, they'll be working the event as well. Trying to think about where I want to go with this. Okay. I'm doing a comparison. Mr. Longy did, I appreciate you sending me the class sizes from the end of the school year, 23-24, and then comparing them to the class sizes for 24-23. I'm going to hopefully put an Excel up and share it on social media because I think the town council is right. Like, you have to see the numbers. So, for example, Henry Barnard went from having 7 teachers in each grade, and they have 4 teachers in kindergarten, 5 teachers in first, and 5 teachers in second grade. Hazardville Memorial has the largest class sizes. Every school went down at least 1 teacher, if not 2 teachers. And the numbers don't lie. And I think it's important that parents are aware of that. But one of the things Ms. Pickett shared with me that came out of the curriculum meeting, I'm not willing to sugarcoat anything, make anybody feel better about their bad decisions. It is what it is, right? So I think that the fact is that I asked about our Enfield High classes at the last meeting. So we added 5 courses this year. They're UConn, ECE classes. 3 of them are those. Then we have personal finance, financial management, and financial literacy, humanities, and digital photography too. But every year we have a percentage of courses that don't run. This year, we did not run 24% of our courses, which is approximately 50 courses. This isn't because there's low student enrollment. It's because we had to gut our education system. 5 courses are not running due to the discontinuation of the Asnuntuck partnership, which is sad, and it's going to impact many of our kids that relied on that. There's 11 courses in the business department that aren't running. We're still down 3 full-time employees. Seven out of the 21 AP courses are not running. Art, facts, math, music, PE, science, technology, education, and world language are all down electives because each department lost a full-time employee. So sections of those courses that are graduation requirements are taking priority. Many single courses became too difficult to schedule. So in 2023, 2024, we have 212 courses in that program of studies, and in 2022, we had 207. And only 9% of courses didn't run. 9%, so we only had 18 courses that didn't run. So we've been focusing a lot on the elementary school sizes because class sizes, because I can't even imagine what 29 kids look like, because 1 in 4 students in that 29 kids in your class is special ed. And we've had to cut BTs, we've had to cut paras. I think people thought they were cutting to spite the past majority, but they hurt our kids. They hurt our kids badly. They're not going to recover from this anytime soon. We like to talk about numbers. Numbers don't lie. Reports don't lie. We pay for all this money to have more reports, more reports, more reports. So our poor baseball team, right? There was a field study done that said we cannot fit every sport on the Enfield High campus. Town council doesn't believe it. We get another report, and that report says we cannot fit every team on, and the response to that is, so you've already wasted taxpayer money. I want what I want. I don't care what the report says. Think about it. I want what I want. I don't care what the report says. It doesn't matter that 30 or 40 people came and spoke in favor of Powder Hollow and gave differences about how schools our size don't often play at their field. They're completely out of touch with the fact that we have to bus kids to Fermi to practice or have different games. I think the thing that bothers me the most is they are talking about the reorganization of the schools. So let's see. We can say it time and time again. This was not a Democrat-led initiative. We had parents and staff volunteer. We had 6 teachers that came and said the current model isn't working. So I think we can all agree we don't want to do the K through 2, 3 through 5 model, that we definitely want to go back K through 5. But again, we're being married to the fact that we want to have 6 neighborhood schools, which has been presented that 6 neighborhood schools are not going to be enough program space. Some of our buildings have been recommended not even to be put a hammer in because that's how old and fragile they are. Too expensive to run. We give no room to get us in a position for universal pre-K or to expand Eagle Academy. And just so I'm going to keep reminding everybody, the state just offered us 86% the return on our dollar to enhance our preschool program. You know what that means? That means universal pre-K is imminent. And you know what else that means for the town of Enfield? 0 space. We do not have space for universal pre-K. But if we could just go with the report, the independent study, the one that the residents and the staff went with, where it would put us in a position where we would have 3 schools. We would have open space to move Eagle Academy to one of the bigger buildings. We would have open space to be ready to house those universal pre-Kers coming into our buildings. As Ms. Valley says, our tiniest humans. The other thing that 6 schools means that it has not been recommended is parents, if this is the plan they go with, you're getting redistricted. The plan suggested by the committee was no redistricting. You were just going to take your sister schools and marry them into one building, Crandall and Barnard. So you were going to know exactly what was going to happen in this redistricting. But they want what they want. Doesn't matter what reports say. I'm going to come here every other Tuesday, and I'm going to talk about exactly what has happened in our school district. And they're going to blame me because they've said things about my integrity or character and money and stuff like that. And we're talking about mental health. And I just have to share this. I wasn't going to share this story, but I will share it before I get off. I was in Costco after one of those town council meetings. The same town councilors who told Gabby how important it was about mental health and be kind and this, that, and the other thing. And somebody said to me, I saw the town council meeting. I can't believe what they said about you. I said, it is what it is. And she goes, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm okay. She's like, no, are you okay? She goes, you never know what somebody's mental health is like. And for what they've said about you, it could really do a number on your mental health. Kindness doesn't matter to them. Working together doesn't matter. We disagree up here. We don't always get along. I think that we have found common ground, things that we can work on and things we disagree, but something has to change. Parents, you need to be paying attention before it's too late. It is affecting your kids from K through 12. But that's what I'm going to do every Tuesday. People need to be aware of exactly what's going on because what's being said at council meetings is twisted facts. And I hope one day, through the chair, that John Day gets to actually present to the entire town council, so he's not getting spoon-fed. The town councilors that are hearing the presentation aren't spoon-feeding it to spin their narrative. I think it's important that they hear that John Day says we'd have to redistrict, that 6 schools is going to be too expensive to run. Facts are facts. So, Mr. Longi, to that end, thank you very much for stepping up. It wasn't easy. You took everything with a brave face, and you took it with a lot of grace and humility. So I appreciate your leadership in this time, and we'll get moving on our next chapter. It's been a lot of different chapters with you, Mr. Longi, me and you, but we'll move on to our next chapter, and thank you.
Okay.
I honestly wish you hadn't said the things that you just said, Tina, because with the sugarcoating and everything, I let you say everything you said. But I'm tired of listening to certain people up here bash the town council. You think you're being bashed. They think they're being bashed. Let them do their business. We'll take care of our business. I am of the opinion that a lot of what's going on in this town did result from the previous majority on both the board and the town council. I think you have some people up there, and I will specifically mention two of them, Mike Ludwig and Kenny Nelson. I can't think of two more people that have more heart and soul in what they're trying to do for this town, for the entire town, not just one specific part of the town or group in the town. There's more to it than just the Board of Education and what we're doing. It's important, absolutely, it's damn important, but they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to get even with anybody. They ran on a no tax increase platform, and that's what they're trying to do. They spread out their cuts just like Andy had to spread out our cuts. They went right across the board. They caught a hell of a lot of flack for doing it. One person actually got thrown out of his union because of some of the things that he said up here for what he thought was the betterment of the town. They made cuts across the board in all departments. I remember sitting in one meeting, originally they were going to give the police department 15 or 17 cruisers, and they had to keep whittling it down until they got to 5. And I think they got a couple more back. But it's not an easy process, and the blame games have to stop. And I think we have to stop taking shots. I mean, I just look at the relationship you and I have had in the past and this year, and it's gotten a hell of a lot better. We've been civil with each other. But if you're going to take shots at them and people who I respect, then I'm just going to, every week after you get through, come back at you, I guess. I hope we don't have to do that. I hope we can just put everything in perspective and do what we're supposed to do as a Board of Education and what the town council is supposed to do, and that we can work together, if we can ever get together. I mean, it's not easy. It's not an easy process, and feelings do get hurt. So let's try to keep all that coffee in the cup.
I would say that's progress between me and you.
That's what I meant.
All right, I'm going to go next. So regarding Maureen's comments about, the bottom-up assessment, I know that we've talked at length in leadership about that and how Mr. Macchio is going to come in and he's going to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth from basically everybody, any stakeholder. He's like going to go on his tour of Enfield, and I also know that the principals, they take building input, and Mrs. Middleton has meetings with the principals, and they have very frank conversations, and I know that I've encouraged her to let them continue to be frank, because we're going to need all of the data that we can get to advocate for, exact reasons why we need what we need in the next coming budget. So that conversation is being had, and it will continue to be had. Regarding, what Tina had said, she gave all the facts, but there's other things that you kind of left out that also, with the Asnuntuck thing, the EMT, the welding, the manufacturing, John Diggs said that when we started that program, it was about $1,000 a kid, and now it's over $3,000 a kid in busing. So that's a large increase. That's kind of a tough pill to swallow. So the 7 out of the 21 AP courses, one is an AP computer class. That's not being offered because we need the updated computers because iPads can't do it, so they can't run the programming for that class. And then Mrs. Middleton, I believe, said that the rest was due to low course request. So they went with what was more popular and able to be scheduled. Yeah, go for it.
Yes, mostly low course requests, or because they'd had to pick between one course or another course because of limited scheduling of classes.
Right.
And yeah, the computers were MacBooks that were old, and IT couldn't support them anymore. And they can't run the programming for that computer class on an iPad.
Can I just add, because I appreciate your clarification, but I do want to say, when we had block scheduling, which we had to cut, kids didn't have to make difficult choices like that.
Right, and I'm not trying to take away from the fact that obviously we are offering less. I just wanted to add some more to that. And
I appreciate the factual piece of it.
And because I know that I had watched the last council meeting, I know some people came and said that there were 29 kids in kindergarten classes, and I am pretty sure that I have heard Mr. Longy say multiple times that the intent for kindergarten classes was not to let them go over 18 or something like that. Right.
The intent was to keep the kindergarten classes as low as possible. There are no classes in kindergarten of 29.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify those things because, yes, we're not in a great spot. I mean, when we did talk in curriculum, the teen leadership at Enfield High, we need to bring that back. That one is a direct effect on one of our indicators, and the kids really enjoyed that class. So, you know, those are important things that we're going to have to bring up. And then we obviously discussed maybe relooking at the AP catalog. There might be more or better offerings that we can offer the kids. So those are also important to note. I also wanted to note that I got an email from Kathy about the CTDOT. They contacted Kathy regarding the status of our schools for speed zone sign reinforcement. Kathy let them know which of the schools on Enfield Street and which are schools and which is a program. And then we were told that the placement of the school zone signs at Enfield High and Enfield Street was referred to the Enfield Traffic Division. So that's hopefully progress in the right direction. And then I had gotten an email about somebody asking if we televised our football games on ETV, and I originally gave the wrong answer, so I followed up today after I talked to the guys at ETV, and I'm sorry that I caused extra legwork on people, but we do televise all of our games, and actually I was just watching the volleyball play before the meeting started downstairs. They're live streamed. They don't really have commenting on it, but they're on the Enfield Athletics webpage. You can see any game that plays, not just football games. They're looking into the commentating part of it, but you can at least hear, like I could hear the girls on the court and the sounds of the crowd when I was watching it. So we have that option. We have the technology. Commentary, sorry. I did go, because there's no real place to report on this, but I did go to Crack Council this past week. It was a discussion about, you know, how their opening went. They had a back-to-school block party, and they gave out 10,000 backpacks this summer for their kids at magnet schools. They talked a lot about how apparently sometime this week, they may have already had it, that they were going to get the superintendents together so they could all get on the same page and push to keep increasing magnet school funding so that doesn't all rely on taxpayers. They said that Jeff Curry isn't running again, so he's not going to be the education chair anymore. And then they talked about that the budget session starts in January. It's going to be a short but very packed session. And they said, basically, be prepared that, again, we're not going to get anywhere near full funding for excess costs. They did say that a lot of the things that occurred was that the net students who are receiving services didn't change, but the cost of the services went up substantially. So, good thing we did not budget a high number at all for projections from the state, so, basically, let's get on the state and not let off so that they understand exactly what they're doing to local taxpayers and that we pay them a lot of taxes. Where's all the money go? And if you're going to send the money back, you should definitely send it back for education, for sure, and probably infrastructure at the same point. So that was that. We did talk about, for joint insurance, obviously that's a hot topic we've been talking about for a while. Mr. Longy did respond for us, so we are still waiting our response back, but hopefully we will have a meeting on October 7th if the response comes back favorable. And then once Mr. Macchio starts, then we will start talking about when we're going to set up that next joint budget meeting to fulfill the MOU parts. I have other comments that come at other times during other things later, but I wanted to thank Andy, obviously. You've definitely worked more than most people probably should. And I appreciate, you always being there to answer calls and questions, and thank you very much. And I also wanted to thank Dr. Akabuchi over at JFK, being the intern principal. He's actually doing a great job over there. And he's actually doing Parent Square and all that good stuff, and thank you. And that's all I had for now. Yeah, that's all I have for now. Okay, so moving on. Unfinished business. We don't have any. New business. Action, if any, regarding appointing the JFK principal. Mr. Longy.
So as you know, we brought you a candidate in executive session before this meeting. And so tonight, you got to hear the interview, and tonight you will hopefully make a motion and vote in the next principal of JFK Middle School. Happy to bring Sarah Brown, who's been at JFK for 20 years, started as a teacher, has been an assistant principal, and has taken on many, many different roles within the district with a lot of leadership experience. And I personally believe and know that she's the right person to lead JFK forward. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to need a motion to approve the interim superintendent's recommendation to bring forth Ms. Sarah Brown.
So moved.
The principal for John F. Kennedy. It is made by Mr. Riders, seconded by Ms. LeBlanc. And discussion on the matter. Go ahead, Mr. Cover.
So through the chair to the interim super, I know we did discuss an executive session and we kind of highlighted, could you just give maybe the public like an executive summary of the process, how you narrowed it down from your initial pool to the one candidate that we have tonight?
Yes, Mr. Kober, that's a good idea. So it was a thorough process. I want to thank Dr. Andrew Barrios, our new Director of Human Resources, put together a great program to find a principal. We started initial interviews. Dr. Barrios put together a team of JFK teachers as well as central office administrators to do the initial interviews. From there, we reduced the number of candidates to 3 candidates from there. That went forward to an open almost like an open mic night at JFK Middle School where parents, students, and staff could attend, where each candidate came out actually up on the stage and answered a series of questions from students, from staff, from parents. From there, it was reduced to 2 candidates, and at that point, they had a little less than a week to prepare 2 pretty lengthy presentations to the cabinet level administrators. One was on improving academic achievement, and they were given quite a bit of data to look at and analyze, and then put together a presentation how they could see improving academic achievement at JFK. And the second one was behavioral discipline data, looking at suspension rates and what their plan would be to reduce the number of suspensions if they believed that was the appropriate thing to do, and what processes they would do to move the school forward with that. From all of that, it was a unanimous decision from all of central office, and I just want to say Steve Macchio was in that round, and it was a unanimous decision to bring Ms. Brown forward to you. So good question, Mr. Kober. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Janice.
I'm not crazy about the process. I brought this up at leadership, so you guys know who were there know how I feel about the process, and I think this is something that we're going to have to go over at policy or something else, or at least within our caucus, and go from there. I think there are flaws in the process. I like the old way of doing things, but I don't think this is the time and place to get into a lot of details. Also, the other thing that I am extremely unhappy with is the fact that only one candidate was brought forth. I think it should have been at least a minimum of 2. We brought 3 candidates for the superintendent. We should have had at least multiple people for this. I'm not saying one way or the other, but at least you have a choice. You have something to compare with. So that's my other gripe about this whole process. I'm not trying to take away from the recommendation of the superintendent or the assistant superintendent. I mean, you have your opinions. I think the board has our opinions, and I think most of the board members are going to go along with your opinions. So I think we need to work on the process.
Anybody else? Ms. Pickett?
I just wanted to make a comment on process as well. I really appreciated the process that was used, just knowing that there was an opportunity for staff, students to be part of it, that there was this open dialogue. And I will say I heard from Parkman families and other 3-5 families that were happy that they were also included. And I think, Peter, that was one of your ideas. And I think that was actually well received. I also think of our expertise and lens as a board and our roles and responsibilities. And I have faith that central office cabinet and those that were part of the process up until this point know what it takes best for a leader. And then our role is really trusting those that we put in charge at central office to guide this process and lead us our best candidate. We hire and fire a superintendent, and I think central office holds the weight of picking leaders that lead us and our staff that lead us. So excited to welcome you aboard, hopefully.
Anybody else?
I just want to say I respect the process. I've been doing this a long time, but having the privilege to sit and interview the candidate prior to us making a formal decision was very important. There were a couple of key points that were brought up tonight, things that I wouldn't even have thought of from both an educator's lens, parents' lens. So I appreciate being able to get some insight on that, and I thought it was very well detailed. So thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Kober?
Yeah, so I'll just make some general comments. So the full board had the privilege of interviewing the candidate just prior to this meeting. I think the candidate interviewed very well, gave us some very solid answers. Like mentioned, I think there are opportunities maybe with the process, and it does have to be a weight analysis. I think the process the interim superintendent did, employing a cabinet to create the recommendation and inviting input from the stakeholders, is a very valuable asset, and I think that strengthens the recommendation. However, I do see the other side where, in terms of the oversight of the board, having the opportunity to evaluate more candidates would be beneficial. That being said, based on the interview, the resume, and the recommendation, I will be in favor of this candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Okay, so then I just wanted to say, everybody's been talking about the process up here, and I've been plowing through policies again, because actually, Mr. Daigle, thanks to him, it's actually more interactive now when you go to our website. And there's like an AI assist, which actually helped me out a lot lately. So I just wanted to say for the general public that the board does have a policy. It's policy 2151. It was adapted in 2018, so maybe that's why you obviously have a different experience with the process when you were on the board last, because it was previous to that. But basically, all positions that report directly to the superintendent. Basically, the superintendent provides the board with the list of all the applicants, and then he presents to the board, he or she presents to the board the most qualified to the Board of Education, and then we interview them, and then the superintendent makes their recommendation, and then we either accept or reject it. So we followed our policy, and we can definitely revisit that, you know, if we would like to. But as it stands, we followed the process, and I know I went to the JFK meet and greet, and I saw all 3 candidates go. I did not participate in the survey afterwards, but all 3 candidates were excellent. You could probably, all of them were very qualified. But with Ms. Brown's answers this evening, I definitely have full faith that she can lead the JFK community and build upon all of the progress that Dr. Barrios provided as a great base structure for JFK. So can we proceed to vote? Yes? Okay. So roll call, please, Kathy.
Mr. Janitis?
Because I know Sarah personally and my questions with the policy, I'm going to recuse myself.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations, Mrs. Brown. All right, board committee reports, curriculum committee.
The last curriculum meeting was held on September 19th. John Day presented the dual enrollment textbooks that will be used by the students in 2 UConn early college experience courses at the high school. The book, Educational Foundations, will be utilized as a supplemental support for the course, If You Love It, Teach It. And then there was another book titled Exceptional Children, which will also be utilized by the students for the special education course, Introduction to Special Education. And this book also is a supplemental resource for the students. The next meeting will be held on October 17th.
Thank you, Ms. Acree. Finance Budget Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I will have a lengthy report that will be followed by a lengthy item 15 as well. So for all those, buckle in, exactly. So regarding the report, the Finance Committee had our last meeting yesterday, September 23rd. Our next meeting will be Monday, October 7th at 5 p.m. Once again, we will be, in agenda item 15, we'll be reviewing monthly expenditures for BOE and Grant and Head Starts for June, July, and August. And then in order to reconcile the FY24 budget, there'll be recommended line item transfers in order to finalize that budget. So during our last meeting, we reviewed the current year FY25 budget, which this is the fiscal year that just began July 1st and will run until June 30th. So we got our first budget summary of that, so I just kind of want to, I guess, highlight the key numbers. So the revised appropriation for FY25 is $77,429,559. Actual expended to date is $11,703,974. We're currently projecting an end-of-year projection for this current fiscal year at $80,441,186. Looking at that alone, we are projecting to run over by $3,011,631. However, this may be offset by projected reimbursements for FY25, which are projected to come in at $4,155,000. So being early in the FY, that's just kind of the top-level summary on FY25 budget. We did also review grants for FY24 and FY25 in this meeting. We went over we actually had the grants director come in, and we went over which are the entitlement grants and which ones are discretionary. So with that, I don't say there was anything significant to report on that. We did also quickly talk about beginning the FY26 budget process, because as we know, that is a very long process. However, until the incoming superintendent actually begins his role, that probably won't be drafted, but at the next Finance and Budget Committee, we do plan to discuss that. We did also review nutrition and financials and our other accounts, including gifted and talented. And yeah, everything else I'll address under item 15. Thank you. Questions?
Sorry, I have a couple of questions. One is, you mentioned we currently have $3 million.
So the current projection for FY25, we're appropriated $77 million, and
Yeah.
as is, we're projecting to end at 80, just over 80. So we're projecting to go over by $3 million.
$3 million. But then you mentioned something about $4 million in reimbursement.
Correct, yeah. So we are tracking some reimbursements, and this is similar to what we get every year. This includes partially grants, and then additional is money that the district receives from other districts, notably Hartford. We receive students through the Open Choice Program, so they pay us. And then Eagle Academy, if we get students from out of district, we get paid from them. So that's kind of factoring a reduction to kind of bump up our appropriation, if that makes sense.
So we're projecting to be able to bank on that $4 million and end with a $7 million surplus? No. Okay.
Negative.
So I just want to be clear on
No.
that.
So
Those are grant dollars that we get in and we have budgeted. for
Correct,
those
grant and
$4 million.
budgeted, yeah. So assuming everything flows, we are projected to be in the black, not the red, approximately just over $1 million. But again, we're only 3 months into the year, so these are just kind of the numbers on the sheet at this time, and then we'll continue to update.
The other thing that I don't know if it's appropriate to mention it here, but I think so because of your budget report, you mentioned the financials regarding school nutrition, which I know is interesting and has different rules on how we can use that money. I believe we have 2 schools that qualify for universal free breakfast and lunch. My wonder is if there's ways that we can use, I know before there was an abundance of money that was sitting in that account. If there's ways that we can look at exploring, expanding, like actually taking advantage of free lunch at those 2 schools that qualify and expanding that opportunity. I know that was discussions in the past with COVID dollars, but I think that might be something to look into and explore.
Yeah, all right, yeah, definitely something we can take under advisement and address.
I actually looked into that. We actually, from what I saw, we do not have 2 schools that qualify, believe it or not. So I did. I looked immediately. I know the chairwoman wanted me to look into that right away. We actually don't, surprisingly. But we do have a superintendent that's coming to us where his schools did. So if there's anyone that can maybe navigate for us a little bit better.
A cheat sheet that I think might be somewhat that we want to plug is families as much as, so I know I don't qualify for free or reduced lunch, but it's important that families fill out the paperwork because it helps us get an accurate count. So families, you'd be surprised, you may qualify actually, but the importance of filling out that paperwork because that's what qualifies us for those programs.
I was just going to say that. I don't think we have accurate numbers because I don't think people are filling out the paperwork accurately. I think maybe if they did, we may have 1 or 2 schools qualify. So it's a great point.
So are all families then advised to fill out that regardless of their...
Yes, a lot.
It goes. Sorry, it's part of the paperwork that goes home with all that first day of school, first week of school stuff. Yeah, everybody does get it.
I just have a question. Welcome back, Phil. The last meeting went fairly quickly during the accounts and payroll because you weren't here, so.
We will most definitely make up for that shortly.
I do have a question. So Chairwoman Riley had spoken about how we're going to meet and do a joint insurance meeting. And I know we've talked about it in the past, and I don't know if that's like an agenda item you want to add on, because unlike in the past, Lorena, our business manager, is going to be part of those meetings as well. And it would just be helpful in budgeting based on like claim experience and what we're looking at numbers for the future budget. So it's just a suggestion for that. And I know I'll be at the meeting and Chairwoman Riley, so either one of us can report back to you. And then Lorena is going to be there also. So I don't know if that's something that you want to see through in the Finance Committee, since it impacted our budget by 11%.
Okay. No, that's a good idea for what we can do in finance and budget is add it to when we receive the report from the business manager, if she attends the joint security committee meetings, he can give us the update and then.
Joint insurance.
finance.
Yeah, joint insurance, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think it would be a good committee for it. So thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to add about the grants part during the Finance Committee. That was a pretty robust discussion that we had about the grants, which was great. So I wanted to let, the public know and other board members who might not be aware. If you go to the Connecticut State Department of Education and you go, I wrote down the pathway, but you go to the grants, it's like EGMS, yeah. And if you go to the search on the side and you put Enfield, Connecticut in, and then you go to, I think it's finance on the left, and then it will pull up and you can look at all of the grants and exactly what that grant money is slotted to pay for. So once you go into it, you could see everything. So like, this is gonna pay for 2 full-time teachers, and it's gonna pay for, $1,000 worth of books, or whatever the case may be. All of that information is there, and anybody in the public can see it. And then Lori LaRusso, she also told us about the new grant process that's going on.
Can you stop on the old one for a minute?
Yeah.
Is the new stuff guaranteed, or is that the games we're
Well,
playing?
here's the new game that the state of Connecticut
God.
is playing with the grants. So they'll award you the grant, you get the grant award letter, and you have to spend it by a certain time. So whatever you're gonna use that grant for, so let's just use as an example, because this one just came in, so our $275,000 that we got, that we used for Alliance, for the reading program, and part of the math program. We had to spend it by this Friday, September 30th. So we got the approval letter in, she had to turn right back around and send all the paperwork out, because what she has to send out for paperwork is the POs and the invoices that basically say, we paid for that. And then she sends it out. And then the state of Connecticut does their process and takes their time, and then they turn around and then they send us the money. So with all of the other grants now, the process is, we pay for it, we get all of the invoices all logged in together, and we send out, she does it like, twice a month, but the rule is, you can't submit multiple ones, like you can't get them all in the pipeline. They have to pay one before you can submit another one. So it's like we're gonna constantly behind this 8 ball, and if the person that they're submitting the grant to isn't on top of the ball, then you're gonna be this backlog of grant payments that we need to get back from them. So even though the letter is there that says, yes, you're getting your money, it's this whole other process to actually get the money, because they want us to spend the money first, and then they're gonna pay us. But you can only pay it in increments, and you can't submit another one till you get it. It's a very, I think it's
Messed up
archaic,
stuff, yeah.
backwards process. It's not really, because they used to be able to project that this is how much they're gonna do in the month and send in, yeah. But now you can't project anymore. You have to show you paid it, and then they'll give you the money. So I just wanted to add on to that whole grant education that I got.
Yeah, I would share. So it's EGMS, that you can Google CT EGMS, and it comes up. The grants, so Peter, your point, when you look up Enfield, it'll say the status of the grant. And typically to the public, I believe it only shows ones that we've been awarded. Actually, it might show ones that we've applied for and not been funded, but there's a category at the end that shows like if you actually are getting the funding or not. The reality is they are reimbursement grants, so you have to spend the money, demonstrate you've spent the money on those things, and ask for reimbursement of the money. And so you don't get the money up front anymore. And that was.
Try hitting the right 4 buttons to get there.
Yeah, well, and the reality too is some of that is from like federal guidance, demonstrating that you are actually using the money for what you intended it to use it. It also helps with, unfortunately, not in our case, but many districts are sitting on large pockets of money and then having to send money back because they haven't actually spent it all. So,
Do the federal and the states overlap? In other words, what we're doing with the state, are we being hindered at all by the federal government, or?
The state is the holding, so the state holds federal money.
Okay.
So we don't go directly to the federal government. The state holds the money for the state, just like the town holds the money for us, very similar to that.
So Peter, when you go in there and try to look at the grants, when you pull up a grant, like you would click on a grant, like say you want a CVS or whatever one, right? Or the IDEA one, you click on it, and then it gives you a list of like categories. If you just click on the category that says budget, then a screen pops up and it tells you exactly what that grant was applied for and what it has to go to.
I'm just gonna punch in Phil.
Can I ask a question about those grants? So, like on that list of grants, would you see where we didn't get the Alliance grant?
No. But I can't say yes or no because I only looked at 25. I didn't go back to 24 yet. So I don't know if it.
Right, because
I only looked at 25, what's currently in the system.
so the state built the grant platform for Enfield, but because we didn't get any money, it looks like we didn't submit a plan for the Alliance District. But you can't submit a plan without knowing that you're getting the money. So I was just double checking because that rumor seems to like keep surfacing.
Maybe if you go back to 24, I'm not sure. But I know that for 25, it just shows what's currently there. So you could fool around with 24 and see if it's there. But it definitely shows on the 275 one that it was applied for and for the reading and all that.
How quick are they on approving the grants?
She said that sometimes
Depends on
it's
the
like a
grant.
week turnaround. Miss LaRusso, no, Lori LaRusso, the grants director.
Okay.
She said sometimes it's like a week, other times it's forever, and she said that something happened with the 275 that nobody knew that it was input in the system, and it got lost, and then they magically found it. So, yeah,
Same old story.
yeah.
Are we gonna be getting Alliance District money this year?
I'm not counting on it.
We won't know until
We got
the legislative
275.
session. We won't know till the next we're not getting it, like, the next legislative session would be the next discussion for it, but not this
Not
budget,
for not for this fiscal year, 24, 25.
Right.
and not for
Not
25,
happening.
26.
We've already done our budget.
Right. So,
I was
anything
just
that
wondering.
comes as a gift, but we haven't budgeted for it, so there's no problem with that part.
Thank you
So if
for
there's-
your update.
No more questions. That concludes the Finance and Budget Committee report.
Sorry, like the grant thing was really
He's still
eye-opening, yeah. Policy committee.
At our most recent policy committee meeting, we reviewed 4 policies that will be discussed at our next meeting. Though not mandated, 2 of these policies address gifts and online fundraising, policies becoming more essential as the community and friends of Enfield Public Schools rally to raise funds to support sports and other extracurricular activities in the district. The position statement and policy guidance from the State Board of Education on personal technology use in Connecticut schools was also introduced for discussion at a future meeting. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 15th at 5:30.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Okay, leadership committee. We met on the 18th. We had a lot of items on there. Let's see where I want to go with So basically, with Phil's transparency, we talked about the reporting, and we are supposed to have, like our first preliminary report that Mr. Degg put together coming out like the first week of October. So we will have all that data to look at. Obviously we can view it, we could change it if we want to, leave things out, see if we can add things in, tweak it or whatever. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that. Then along with that reporting data, to address some of the concerns that have come up from the community regarding suspension and arrest data, we're hoping that the new reporting that we're getting may be able to look at that differently, but we're gonna need a few months to see how the data comes in and what the reports look like. So more to come on that. I mentioned this. I know I spoke, to address Amanda's concerns that she had. We talked about it at leadership, regarding the guards, and Tina and I agreed that, if Amanda, you wanted to go for coffee sometime, we would love to sit down with you and address your concerns, because some things may not be advisable on TV with security. But I do have other updates when we get to that committee. And then, because I was looking through the policies again, and I wanted to support Phil with budgeting and stuff, we have a policy 3113, which is setting budget priorities, and I'm not sure how we could do that, if that would be a leadership thing, or if we would want to have some workshop. If we wanted, when Mr. Macchio came on, maybe we could talk about what his priorities are, what your priorities are, and then kind of where we would like to see it go as a board, so we're all on the same playing field of where to go from here to help, expedite the process and have a hand in the process, because a lot of our policies say that, we're in charge of it, but a lot of it gets done by everybody that works here because they have access to all the information. So that's something to think about, food for thought. And that's all I had for leadership. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just looking up some board policies as we were chatting, especially one around hiring of staff. We have a lot of policies. And Phil, I remember, I think it was one of our first meetings when you came with the binder. And I was just quickly looking at CABE's recommended and required policy lists and just some other communities around us. We have a lot more policies. Yeah. And sometimes I will say, I think it's important to have clear, how I see policies as rules and expectations. However, sometimes I think we can over policy things and get a little into the nitty gritty of what we actually hire professionals to do. I wonder if there's a way we might want to audit and maybe consider trimming, and I know that's something you had thought about, but it was alarming to me when I just did a quick search of what 2000 series looks like in other communities.
I'll tack onto that because I also sit on the policy committee. I reached out to our staff liaison during the meeting to get the most current list of CABES required per state legislation and then the recommended, so we could start working in that in the policy committee. Because as a side project, I do remember saying that where I brought the binder, and I am still serious about trying to trim that down, because we, on top of the policies the board sets, we have administrative regulations set by the superintendents and then the schools, and we have student handbooks and code of conducts, and in their lifetime from K to 12, nobody's actually going to read all this stuff, so that there is room for efficiency, and we are working towards that. So I appreciate the support.
You guys know Kathy's supposed to weed all that stuff out.
Nah, that's not Kathy. Just an immense amount of work right now. Okay. All right. Liaison reports, joint facilities. We haven't.
Meeting Thursday.
Yeah, no, September 26th.
September, yeah. Oh, it's not this Thursday?
No, that is this Thursday.
Oh, that is this Thursday.
I was just giving the date.
Sorry.
Okay, JFK Building Committee.
I have the minutes from their last meeting, and I was going to forward it to you and the rest of the board if they would like.
Sounds great. Actually, can you just give it to Andy or Kathy, and then they could do the mass email to Board of Ed?
Sure.
Cool. All right, Joint Security Committee.
October 11th.
Sorry, October 11th is the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? It's my understanding that there's been some conversation around membership of that committee. I'm hoping that we can look at our bylaws around how these, especially joint committees, are structured and what our policies are around alternates and membership.
That brings up a point. I think all of our joint committees were done by resolution.
Yeah, well, I know Joint Facilities was, because I remember when that started.
So I think
It's always at 9.
there might be a resolution for each joint committee. There might be one for insurance, there might be one for joint security that indicates like who is supposed to be there and what the terms are. Yeah, that might be a good idea if we find that. I want to say every joint committee had a resolution through the town council. That might be something
how
we
they
can
were
look
created,
at.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add a little parliamentarian side of that. Even though they're structured as joint committees where you imagine they're 50-50, like per Robert's rules, still one entity is like the primary entity and then everybody else is invited to it. So in the town, I believe all our joint committees are council created and we're invited to it. So in terms of Mrs. Pickett's question as the bylaws, it's either in the resolution or it might be written into council rules and procedures. So it's possible to dive into that, but we as a board might not be able to dictate, besides filling the slots, like we may not control. You get 3 regular members and 3 alternates. It's whatever the council put in either the resolution or their current bylaws.
Right. I guess it would be helpful to make sure the joint committees are actually adhering to when they're supposed to meet, the members that are on it. And then I think if a joint committee isn't going to continue to meet, I think the town council has to do a formal vote on it.
To dissolve it.
To dissolve it.
Correct. Yeah, I believe you're correct. If the committee's created, unless it's specified directly as a temporary committee with an end date, then yeah, it exists indefinitely until it's dissolved.
Okay, joint
Mental
security.
health.
What?
That it was just a date,
Oh.
an update on the date.
Yes.
So October 11th.
October 11th is joint security's next meeting.
Yep.
Yep. And then there was some questions from the community, and we talked about it, that there are regular police officers at night games at the high school, or games that involve, the community at large. There's usually an officer there, because that was a question. Yeah. Yep. And then there's also staff sometimes there that I believe that they said are in like neon vests as well. Around there. Yep, always. Yep. And I mean, they said everything has been going wonderful with the new program. And yeah, that's where we're going with that. Enfield Mental Health Committee.
Again, Dr. Calnan, Mr. Longy, and I will attend the Enfield Together Coalition Mental Health and Wellness event, which is happening this Friday morning, September 27th at Asnuntuck Community College. And then Dr. Calnan and I will also be looking at dates with Mr. Longy for our meeting in October, for our next Health and Wellness Committee meeting. Hopefully we'll be getting some ideas from our event on Friday.
Yeah. Okay. Enfield Culture and Arts Committee.
The next meeting is Tuesday, October 1st at 6:30, which I'm hopeful to attend. The last meeting, it was conflicted with our board meeting.
Okay. School reports and updates. Go ahead, Mr. Cover.
I'll chime in quickly. Just a shout out to Henry Barnard. They did have their open house for this year on Wednesday, September 18th. I was able to attend and observe that it was a success and well attended. I just want to note the Barnard Crandall PTO is still looking for volunteers, so if you're a parent teacher and you got some time, feel free to join that. And then also, I know the interim superintendent talked about Parent Square, so HBS is putting information out on Parent Square. And then, of course, the Friday newsletter, the Big Cat Courier, is still out there, so keep an eye out for that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Coven. Ms. Pickett?
ESS and Parkman also had their open houses. ESS is going to be welcoming a new assistant principal. Adrienne Snow will be joining us, and I'm very excited about her. I think she will bring a wealth of knowledge with her literacy experience and just who she is to our school. So excited for her to join. I know our PTOs are busy. There's a purse bingo coming up and many fundraisers planned, many opportunities to support the school. So again, going to encourage folks to look at Parent Square, also to check out the PTO Facebook pages and online. I don't know who our official JFK liaison is. Thank you, Peter. A wonder of mine is we have this nice electronic sign on Raffia Road that always shares the weather. I would rather it share events or something like that. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we could look at updating the sign that we have there on Raffia Road with some maybe upcoming events instead of the weather. Thanks.
I like the weather. I live on Raffia Road.
Okay. Who'd like to go next? Mr. Ryder, I'm cheating off of your paper because I see that we have some of the same things written down here.
We do have some of the same things.
So,
I don't
go
want to
for it.
steal
You can go
Peter's
for it.
thunder, but JFK Curriculum Night is tomorrow, as I'm sure he was going to report. 5 to 6:30 tomorrow night, JFK Curriculum Night. I attended open house last week at Enfield High. I saw some audience members there as well. There wasn't a huge parent turnout. I think you'll agree. There was probably 7 classes of my daughters that I went to, and I was one of one parent 2 or 3 times. I was one of 4 parents once or twice, and then basically one of 2 for the other ones. But I do encourage our parents to go out when we do have these open houses and get a chance to meet the teachers that are working with our students every day. Also, regarding JFK, the club catalog came out today via Parent Square, so please look out for that. And that, since that is a PDF, you can also find that on enfieldpto.com/JFK in the virtual backpack. PDFs we can share. We just can't share links directly back to the Parent Square app, so make sure everybody gets on that. And then regarding Eli Whitney, same thing. I'm working with Dr. Wiley on getting the recent principal letters posted, but the calendar is mostly up to date. I got a few additions this afternoon that I'll put up this evening. So just encourage everybody to stay in touch with our schools. This is the last 2 weeks where all of our open houses, again, JFK is tomorrow. And then there's also opportunities to sign up for parent-teacher conferences already, which currently take place in November. And there's signups, there'll be signups for that at JFK as well tomorrow night.
Okay, just to respond to a couple of what I perceived as a few digs there, Scott. The reason I don't go into the detail like all you guys do is, I spoke with Mr. Barrios a number of times about how they disseminate their information and everything, and I don't think it needs to be repeated here. And also now with the Parent Square, that's even an additional tool that they have to find out what's going on.
Ms. A. Creed?
From Crandall, Mr. DePere states, we will be holding our first Pride Assembly this Friday, September 27th. Please show your school spirit by wearing Cougar colors of red, white, or black. And by the way, PRIDE is an acronym for patience, respect, integrity, determination, and engagement. Picture Day will be taking place on October 1st. Also, please help Crandall by attending our Moe's Restaurant PTO fundraiser on Tuesday, also happening on October 1st. All PTO butter braid orders are due by Thursday, October 3rd. And he says, happy fall.
Okay, obviously Hasville had their open house, and they would like parents to be reminded to sign up for parent-teacher conferences. I just wanted to add about the JFK, because I get their messages on Parent Square because of one of my students. I looked at the catalog and I was actually surprised to see that there are 30 offerings on that catalog. I was expecting to see like 4, and there's 30 on there. So it's like things like drama, art, creative writing, Lego, robotics, and Best Buddies. So thanks for that opportunity to give the kids extracurricular things. And then they also sent out, parents should be aware that information about Suffield VOAG, Prince Tech, and Cheney Tech is going to be coming out soon. And then I wanted to thank Dr. Wiley for hooking me up with Parent Square on my iPad for all of the districts. And so I've been working with her, troubleshooting some things, and Scott's been working with her too. And so hopefully we can get everybody access to their schools on the iPads in Parent Square, so it'll be easy to see what your school's doing. Okay, so, anybody else? No? Okay, approval of minutes, regular Board of Ed meeting minutes, September 10th, 2024. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ryder.
Second.
Second by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion? Sensing none, show of hands to approve. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 approve. How many against?
No.
Nope, and 2 abstentions, I'm assuming? Okay, yep. Okay. All right. It's the Finance Phil show.
All right, turning it back over for item 15,
Yes.
approval of accounts and payroll. So we do have 3 months to go through, and then before the final item, I will circle back, briefly talk about the FY24 budget before proposing that. So the Finance Committee met on September 23rd, 2024 to review financial statements for the month of June year-to-date and examine various documents related to finance. Our review concluded that there is nothing significant to report to the board. First motion is to accept the superintendent certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of June, total expenditures amounted to $1,561,129.22, broken down between payroll totaling $1,440,084.99, and other accounts totaling $121,044.23. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Covert.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion? All in favor, show of hands. That is 9 in favor, none against.
Continuing on for June, introduction is the same. This motion, I move we accept the superintendent certification as follows. I hereby certify, quote, I hereby certify that in the month of June, the total grant and Head Start expenditures amounted to $1,747,272.48, broken down between payroll totaling $293,693.84 and other accounts totaling $1,453,578.64. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. End quote. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Coker. Second by Dr. Callahan. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
Moving on to July. This motion is, I move to accept the superintendent certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of July, total expenditures amounted to $3,015,439.01, broken down between payroll totaling $703,022.64 and other accounts totaling $2,312,416.37. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. End quote. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion by Mr. Cover. Second. Second by Ms. Acree. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
All right. Moving on to July Head Start. Motion, I move we accept the superintendent certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of July, the total grant and Head Start expenditures amount to $248,934.66, broken down between payroll totaling $49,933.10 and other accounts totaling $199,001.56. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented, end quote. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover. Need a second? Second. By Ms. Acree. Discussion. Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
All right, moving on to items for August. Motion being, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of August, total expenditures amounted to $4,814,059.93, broken down between payroll totaling $2,830,053.54, and other accounts totaling $1,984,006.39. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. End quote. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover. Second from
Second.
Mr. Ryder. Any discussion? Sensing none. Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
Rolling into grant and Head Start expenditures for the month of August. Motion is, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of August, the total grant and Head Start expenditures amount to $256,188, broken down between payroll totaling $184,968.83 and other accounts totaling $71,219.17. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented. End quote. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, Business Manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion? Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against.
All right, so the last item will be line item transfers for the FY24 budget. So before I read the motion, I just want to explain it. That's why I figured it would be better here than in the finance report. So at the last finance meeting, we reviewed the FY24 budget, which is the budget that began July 1st, 2023 and ended June 30th of 2024. So that approved budget was $75,929,555. The year-to-date expended for that year is $75,929,555, ending the year at 100% utilization of the budget. I do want to note, since the budget was a hot topic over the past year, this reconciliation was initially made possible due to the funds supplied from the town of Enfield that was approved earlier this year, as well as additional grants, reimbursements, and payments from other districts that offset the actual expenditures and brought it down to match the appropriated budget. Being that the FY24 budget totals are correct, the line items within that budget need to be moved around to end the year properly. So, so the Finance Committee did receive a breakout of the line items that were off and the increases and decreases between the initial approved and appropriated budget and what actually ended up being spent. So out of the initial budget, once again, of $75,929,555, within the line items of the budget, the discrepancy amount was $8,229,528.59. That was off between the projected and the actual expended within that money. So in order to reconcile adjusting line items, the monies being moved will total $4,166,573.02. What this will do is match the funds that were expended to the approved funds, either at 100% or within $10,000. So with that explanation, I'll read the motion. Finance Committee met on September 23rd to review line item transfer requests for the FY 2024 budget. I therefore move the Board of Education approve the following line item transfers. Funds coming from the 200 series line item, which is personnel services and employee benefits, moving $2,687,297.83. Also moving from the 400 series line items, purchase property services, $21,653. And from the 600 series line items, supplies, $1,073,874.63. And from the 700 series, property, $383,747.56 to total the $4,166,573.02, and moving the savings from those line items to where we went over budget. So the destination line items will be the 100 series, which is employee salaries, $2,416,425.60, to the 300 series line items, purchase professional and technical services, putting in $1,138,671.76, to the 500 series, other purchase services, $591,313.15, and then to the 800 series line items, debt service and other miscellaneous line items, $20,162.51, once again totaling $4,166,573.02 being moved within the budget. Certified by Lorena Cisneros, business manager.
Motion made by Mr. Cover. Second from Dr. Callanan. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Dennis.
Is there any way of giving a summary of what you just said?
That
Sure.
was the summary.
That was
the summary.
That was a summary of what we went over in the finance
Basically,
committee.
you moved a lot of money.
Correct. So I guess the executive summary is, out of this approximate $75 million, we ended with $75 million. But in certain areas, we overspent, and in certain areas, we underspent.
To the tune of like $4 million something.
Correct. So the areas we underspent, we're applying those savings and move them to the items where we overspent in order to either balance the budget at exactly 100% or that the line items are within $10,000.
And that's where we are now.
Correct. So this motion will reconcile the budget so everything is
copacetic
and has a bow on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So I know that it was going around, lots of different numbers were being tossed around. Did I just hear you clarify it's a little over $4 million that we actually ended?
So it's not that we ended different from the budget. It's within the budget where the money was to move it to other locations. So in summary, we overspent on salary, technical services, purchase services, and debt service, and that ties into discussions we had with staffing and special ed. Where we underspent is some of the employee benefits, purchase property, supplies and property, where we spent less money. So we're essentially taking those I don't want to call them savings, but the money that was unspent, we unencumbered it and are moving it over to the other line items.
To make the lines zero out, basically. So like an example would be like, in each of those categories, there's a whole subcategory behind it. So like, let's just say, for an example, you had, and this is a random example, but let's just say you had a principal, right? And then the principal changed and their salary went down. So that line, the actual number amount went down. So then you could realize that savings and put it towards a line item that went over. Like, let's just say services like PTOT out services, the way to pay for.
I get that. I guess what my wondering, or why I'm like feeling so puzzled, is that we did not have extra money anywhere.
No.
So we were in the hole, but what we did is with the money that we've gotten from the state grant, from the town council, we are looking at putting those dollars in the right spots
To close the accounts
to
for
close the
year. Yeah.
accounts.
Right.
So it's not like there was like an inflated budget line item that like got swooped over someplace else.
Correct. It basically, so at the end, like at the beginning where I read the budget for last year, the total amounts matched. It's just moving it on the table to balance it.
So, are you done? So we got the big hole and we got little holes. And we took money from the little holes to fix the big hole. Did we hurt any programs or anything severely with that movement?
So this is after the fact reconciliation.
okay.
So yeah, all the actual transactions and the money was spent, or what was encumbered. If it wasn't encumbered, it was released back into the fund. So this doesn't affect anything that already happened, and it doesn't affect anything
So
that
we have
will
a clean
happen.
slate now that we're starting from.
Correct. This
Okay.
is to clean the slate for the FY
Except
24.
Except Mr. Kobler mentioned already this year we're $4 million in the hole.
Correct, but that's the FY 25 budget.
I know.
So yes, but
So-
clean slate for June 30th of 2024.
Closing 2024.
But technically, it's that 4 million is expenditures, and then on the other sheet that we got
Yes.
is
Because that's how school budgets work. Right.
So
Just clarifying.
So this,
realize
I'm sorry.
that $4 million, because those are grants that have been approved and or are being submitted in our entitlement grants.
That's why the $10 million was misleading that you guys were throwing around, because we hadn't gotten the money in from the entitlement grants. So the overage wasn't $10 million that people like to say it was, because there was specific millions of dollars that Lorena had known that was grant money that we were getting back in.
Correct.
Correct. I'll add just for the overall budget. Yeah. So even though it was only 75 million, that was offset by like the 5.6 from the town that was donated, we'll call it, or under the MOU to us. But then we also did receive other income. So the 10
Right.
million is a constructed number.
But it
between
wasn't a
5.6 and
true
the 4.
number of an overage, because we hadn't gotten the grant money in yet that we were entitled to.
No, that's where the 6 was.
Correct, but I've heard the 10 million number thrown around a lot, which isn't the actual true number.
Right, it's the 5.6 that they gave us with the additional 1.7 that we're gonna pay them
Right,
back.
so as the finance chair, can you clarify if it was 10 million or if it wasn't 10 million because of the entitlement grants that we were getting in?
So I will say, because I don't have those numbers in front of me, I would say it's still approximately 10 million, because we spent 75. You add 5.6 that we got from the town, you add the 4 million that we approximately got, we realistically did spend approximately 85 million.
Yeah, it's grants. It's just like now. So you said we were over. Everybody's saying we were over $10 million, but we weren't because of the entitlement grants. It's misleading. So we could look at your financial statements, and the same thing's going to happen to you. I mean,
I'm not sure I understand
you
what you
can't. You're saying that the board overspent by $10 million. But the board was getting like so many millions of dollars in entitlement grants, which are guaranteed grants. So saying it's $10 million without taking into account the guaranteed money is really not factual.
Well, whether it's guaranteed or not, it's still money that we spent.
But we have to spend our money before we can get the grant money in.
But we got reimbursed.
And we got reimbursed for it, and that's the thing.
Well, the thing is, I hear what you're saying, because I heard it from a lot of people too, and I would try to explain it. We were basically at that point in time, 10 million in the hole, but we were getting money back.
Correct.
Hopefully, how much we got back.
It wasn't hopefully, it was entitlement money, so we were guaranteed that money.
Guaranteed.
Because a lot of it was,
Ran
some
out.
of it was federal grants.
Yeah, but the point is, it brought it back down to the point where the town council had to bail us out for what, $5 or $6 million.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the $10 million number to be thrown around was not an accurate
Well, I think
number.
it was thrown around by some who didn't know the full facts. That's all.
Yeah, but it
like
came out of
everything.
the finance committee chair. So, I mean, I guess I just want clarification, because what we're seeing now is the exact pattern that we see, like Scott said, in school budgets out of the finance committee. You're always going to be behind because you always have that grant money that has to come in. And Chairwoman Riley explained it excellently about how grants work. And I almost wish Ms. LaRusso could come here and give us a presentation, because people think we scratch lottery tickets, and we don't. But that's just the way grants work, whether we like it or not. So 10 million just wasn't an accurate number.
Any more transfers?
So we have a motion and a second for the transfer, but I don't believe we actually voted on the transfers yet.
That was the discussion, okay. So we're gonna move to vote now, okay? Can I have, I'm sorry. Yeah, we had a first and a second. Yes.
It's time to vote. And then we
Yes.
did discussion,
All
and
right.
now we're voting. Yep.
What's the
Can I
motion?
have a,
What is it?
just approving the line item transfers, yes. So, show of hands in favor. There is 8 in favor. Against 7. Oh, sorry. I thought I saw his hand. 7 in favor. Against. Abstentions. 2 abstentions. Okay. All right. Number 16, correspondence and board communications.
Nothing this week.
Okay. There's no need for executive session. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Kober, second by Mr. Ryder. Show of hands in favor.
Sorry.
All in favor, none against. Thank you, and have a good night.